If you ever think about putting your own mother into a budget nursing home just to steal her inheritance, you'd better make sure she doesn't hold the deeds to everything you've ever wanted. My name is Evelyn, and 6 months ago, my own daughter betrayed me, declared me unfit, and locked me away in a rundown care facility so she could take over my assets. She thought I was defenseless. She even started picking out furniture for her dream multi-million-dollar estate. But what she didn't realize was that the lawyer she hired was working for me, and today, she's getting evicted from the very house she tried to steal. The dining room of my oak-framed home in upstate New York was filled with the warm scent of roasted chicken and lavender. I had spent 4 hours preparing dinner for my daughter, Clara, and her husband, Greg. I thought we were celebrating Clara's 35th birthday. I even placed a wrapped velvet box beside her plate containing my mother's antique diamond ring. Clara sat down, but she didn't look at the food. She didn't open the velvet box either. Instead, she set a thick manila envelope right in the middle of the dining table, resting her hands on top of it. "Mom," Clara said, her voice dropping into a flat, practiced tone, "we need to talk about your living arrangements." I paused, setting down the serving fork. "My living arrangements? Clara, I've lived in this house for 40 years. Your father and I built it. And you're 72, Mom." Greg chimed in, adjusting his glasses without looking me in the eye. "You forgot your reading glasses twice last week. You left the garden hose running on Tuesday. It's becoming unsafe." "A hose, Greg?" I choked out a soft laugh, thinking it was a bad joke. "I was washing the patio." "It's not just the hose, Mom." Clara cut in sharply, sliding the envelope toward me. "I've already signed the intake paperwork for Suncrest Manor. They have a bed opening up tomorrow morning at 8. I opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside were medical evaluation forms, a power of attorney petition, and a long list of asset transfer requests. They had hired an aggressive elder care lawyer months ago, systematically documenting every minor slip-up I had made, framing me as incompetent. "Suncrest Manor?" I whispered, reading the name on the letterhead. I knew that place. It was a cheap, drafty facility on the edge of town with barred lower windows and terrible reviews. "It's what's best for you," Clara declared smoothly, taking a slow sip of her wine. "Besides, with you safely cared for, Greg and I can move into this property. We've already spoken to a contractor about knocking down your flower garden to build a swimming pool." She wasn't just putting me away. She was moving into my home, taking my life's work, and throwing me aside like old furniture. "I won't sign this, Clara," I said, my voice shaking with rage. "I am perfectly healthy. I own this house. I own the land." Greg smiled, a cold, condescending smirk. "You don't have a choice, Evelyn. The court granted Clara temporary emergency guardianship 2 hours ago, based on our doctor's report. If you resist, 2 officers will escort you out in the morning." They had trapped me, my own flesh and blood, whom I had put through private university, funded her wedding, and bailed out of debt 3 times. I looked at my daughter, looking for any trace of the little girl I used to read bedtime stories to. But all I saw was cold, unbridled greed. I slowly closed the envelope, set it down, and picked up my water glass. 8 in the morning, you said?" I asked quietly. 8 sharp," Clara replied, smiling for the first time all evening. "Pack light, Mom. You won't be needing much." They thought they had won. They thought an old woman in a nursing home had no teeth left. What Clara didn't know Was that 30 years ago, before I retired to raise her? I was one of the senior legal researchers for the state tax court. I knew every loophole, every deed law, and every estate ordinance in this county. And Suncrest Manor had Wi-Fi. At precisely 8 o'clock the next morning, a rusted white van pulled up to my driveway. Clara and Greg stood by the front porch, watching as two orderly attendants took my small leather suitcase. Claire didn't hug me goodbye. She just checked her watch, eager for me to leave so she could start bringing in her furniture. "Don't worry about the house, Mom," Clara said, adjusting her designer sunglasses. "Greg and I will take very good care of it. Your antique jewelry is already locked in our safe." I didn't argue. I didn't shed a single tear. I simply climbed into the back of the van, set my laptop bag on my lap, and looked her dead in the eye. "Enjoy the house, Clara," I said softly. "Make sure you read the property taxes carefully." She scoffed, waving her hand as the van drove away. Suncrest Manor was even worse than the online reviews suggested. The hallways smelled of bleach and stale food. The wallpaper was peeling at the corners, and the window in my tiny room faced a brick wall. The director of the facility, a sleazy man named Mr. Henderson, handed me a folder of house rules. "Visits are restricted, Mrs. Vance," Henderson said, smirking. "Your daughter, Clara, holds your power of attorney. She specified that you are not allowed phone privileges or outside visitors without her written permission. They wanted to isolate me. They wanted to make sure I couldn't reach out to old friends or hire a lawyer." "I understand, Mr. Henderson," I said, maintaining a gentle, fragile smile. "May I at least have access to the public Wi-Fi? I like to play online crosswords." Henderson laughed, shaking his head at my apparent harmlessness. "Sure, Mrs. Vance. Wi-Fi network is Suncrest Rivers. Password is on the wall." The moment he locked my door, my fragile old woman persona evaporated. I opened my laptop, connected to the network, and logged into an encrypted cloud portal. Clara and Greg thought they had seized my assets, but they had only looked at my local bank accounts and the deed to the house. They had used a cheap, greedy eldercare attorney named Arthur Sterling, a man known in town for taking kickbacks. What Clara didn't know was that 30 years ago, I didn't just work for the state tax court. I specialized in tracking hidden corporate trusts and fraudulent asset transfers. I opened a legal registry search and typed in Arthur Sterling's bar license number. Within 10 minutes, I found exactly what I was looking for. Sterling was under active investigation by the State Bar Association for illegal property flips. He was using emergency guardianship orders to help ungrateful adult children liquidate their parents' homes, taking a 15% cut under the table. Clara hadn't just hired a lawyer. She had partnered with a criminal. I opened a fresh document and drafted a formal notice of interest and a petition for forensic audit. Then, I sent an encrypted email to a man I hadn't spoken to in 15 years, Julian Mercer, the most feared estate litigator in the entire state, and my former legal protege. 5 minutes later, my laptop screen lit up with a reply from Julian. "Evelyn, I saw your name on the docket this morning. I knew something was wrong. Tell me who I need to destroy." I smiled in the dim light of the nursing home room. The game had officially begun. By Thursday morning, 3 days after they shoved me into Suncrest Manor, Clara and Greg were already hosting a party at my house. Through the security cameras I still accessed on my laptop, I watched them drinking champagne with their friends on my patio, boasting about how they had finally secured their future. They had no idea that while they were uncorking my vintage wine, Julian Mercer was quietly dismantling their entire legal foundation. Julian didn't just file an appeal. He filed a petition for an immediate, mandatory financial audit of Arthur Sterling's law practice, backed by my former colleagues at the state tax office. At 2 o'clock that afternoon, the door to my tiny room at Suncrest Manor clicked open. Mr. Henderson walked in, accompanied by Clara's crooked lawyer, Arthur Sterling. Sterling looked flushed, his suit jacket unbuttoned, sweat glistening on his forehead. "Mrs. Vance," Sterling began, trying to force a professional smile. "There seems to be a minor administrative glitch. A legal firm named Mercer and Associates filed a notice of claim on your estate this morning." I slowly lowered my laptop screen, looking up at him with a placid, harmless smile. "Oh, Julian Mercer. Yes. He was my junior researcher 30 years ago. A very thorough young man." Sterling swallowed hard, exchanging a worried glance with Henderson. "Mrs. Vance, your power of attorney is signed. Clara controls your assets, but Mercer is demanding a full audit of the trust transfer. If we go to court, it could freeze the estate for months." "Oh dear." I sighed gently. "That sounds complicated for you, Mr. Sterling. We can settle this quietly." Sterling pressed, leaning over my small desk. "If you sign a waiver confirming you won't contest the guardianship, I can convince Clara to move you to a private suite in a better facility, somewhere with a garden." They were panicked. They realized Julian Mercer wasn't just any lawyer. He was a bulldozer. I leaned back in my chair, resting my hands neatly on my lap. "Tell me, Mr. Sterling," I said, my voice dropping its gentle tone and turning razor sharp. "Did Clara tell you about the irrevocable trust established in 1998? Sterling blinked. The what?" "The Family Land Trust," I explained calmly. "You see, my late husband and I didn't hold the deed to my house in our personal names. We transferred the property, along with 70 acres of prime commercial land downtown, into an irrevocable family trust 28 years ago." Sterling's face went completely pale. A family trust meant my house wasn't part of my personal estate. Clara's power of attorney didn't cover it, and any attempt to transfer or alter the property without the primary trustee's consent was a federal felony. "And who?" Sterling stammered, his voice cracking. "Who is the primary trustee?" I smiled, looking him dead in the eye. "I am Mr. Sterling," I said, "and the secondary trustee is Julian Mercer." Sterling backed away from my desk as if he had just touched a hot stove. His hands were trembling as he grabbed his briefcase. I need to make a call," Sterling gasped, rushing out of the room, leaving the door wide open. I picked up my phone, opened my email, and typed a quick note to Julian. "Arthur Sterling knows. Initiate Phase 2. By Saturday afternoon, barely 6 days after they locked me away in Suncrest Manor, Clara and Greg had already invited 30 of their wealthiest friends over for a summer garden party. They were serving catering on my crystal dinnerware, showing off the patio, and handing out business cards for Greg's new consulting firm, which he funded using $10,000 he stole from my checking account. Through the live feed from my security cameras, I watched Clara standing by the rose bushes, holding a glass of Pinot Noir, laughing with her friends about how peaceful my new life was in care. She had no idea that a black town car was already pulling onto the gravel driveway. The heavy iron gates opened, and Julian Mercer stepped out, wearing a three-piece charcoal suit, holding a thick leather briefcase stamped with the county seal. Beside him were two uniformed county sheriffs and a court-appointed administrator. The music stopped. Guests turned their heads, murmuring in confusion as Julian walked straight through the manicured lawn toward Clara. "Clara Vance Miller?" Julian asked, his voice deep, authority ringing clear across the backyard. Clara set her wine glass down, her smile instantly vanishing. "Yes. Who are you?" "This is a private event. Leave immediately or I'm calling the police." "You don't need to call them, Mrs. Miller," Julian replied calmly, pointing to the two sheriffs standing beside him. "They are already here." Greg stepped forward, puffing out his chest. "Look here, buddy. We have legal power of attorney over this entire estate. Arthur Sterling cleared this." Julian pulled a crisp, red-stamped legal order from his briefcase, handing it directly to Greg. Arthur Sterling's license to practice law was suspended 3 hours ago by the State Bar Association. Julian declared loudly, enough for every guest at the party to hear. Pending federal charges for elder financial abuse and deed fraud. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Clara's friends began backing away toward the driveway, pulling out their phones. "What?" Clara screamed, her face turning bright red. "That's impossible. I am Evelyn's daughter. I hold guardianship." "You held temporary emergency guardianship," Julian corrected her, stepping closer, "which was officially revoked by Judge Harrison at 11 o'clock this morning, after forensic accountants discovered you transferred $10,000 of trust funds for personal entertainment." Julian turned to the county sheriff, nodding firmly. "Furthermore," Julian announced, "this property belongs to the Vance Family Irrevocable Trust, of which Evelyn Vance is the sole managing trustee, under County Code Section 412. You, your husband, and your guests are officially trespassing." The sheriff stepped forward, pulling a pair of yellow eviction notices from his belt and slapping them directly onto the oak front door. "You have 20 minutes to vacate the premises, Mr. and Mrs. Miller," the sheriff ordered sternly. "Take your personal clothing. Leave all estate keys, financial ledgers, and property documents on the dining table. Any attempt to remove property belonging to the trust will result in immediate arrest." Clara stood frozen in the middle of her own party, her eyes wide with sheer terror, her hands trembling so violently she dropped her wine glass, shattering it against the stone patio. Her wealthy friends were already rushing to their cars, whispering, sneering, and snapping photos of the disgraced couple. Greg grabbed Julian's arm, desperate, begging, "Listen to me. There's been a mistake. Where is Evelyn? Let us talk to her." Julian leaned in, his eyes cold and unwavering. "Mrs. Vance is currently leaving Suncrest Manor," Julian whispered, "and she instructed me to give you one final message." He leaned closer. She said, "Pack light. You won't be needing much." By 6 o'clock that evening, the video of Claire and Greg being escorted off my property by county sheriffs had gone viral across local news. Footage captured by their own party guests, showing Clara sobbing in her designer dress while officers taped yellow eviction notices to the oak front door, was shared thousands of times. I stood in the grand foyer of my home, holding a warm mug of chamomile tea. As Julian Mercer handed me a stack of updated court documents, "The locks have all been changed, Evelyn," Julian said, his voice calm and precise. "And 2 private security guards are stationed at the main gate. Clara and Greg won't be stepping foot on this land again." "What about their personal bank accounts, Julian?" I asked, taking a slow sip. Julian smiled, a sharp predatory glint in his eye. "That's the best part. Because they commingled their personal funds with the $10,000 stolen from the trust. Judge Harrison signed an emergency freeze on all joint accounts tied to Clara and Greg." "Every single account?" "Every single one," Julian confirmed. "Their credit cards are declined. Their line of credit is frozen. As of 2 hours ago, they cannot even buy a cup of coffee." Just then, the landline phone on the foyer table began to ring. I picked up the receiver, setting it on speakerphone. "Mom! Mom, please!" Clara's frantic, breathy voice burst through the speaker. She was crying hysterically, background noise sounding like a noisy gas station parking lot. "Greg's card was just declined at the motel. They won't let us check in. We're sitting in the car with our clothes and garbage bags." I stood in the warm light of my hallway, listening quietly. "Mom, do you hear me?" Greg yelled in the background, his voice cracking with desperation. "We don't have cash for food. This is cruel. You're our mother." "I was your mother, Clara," I said, my voice smooth as silk, "until you handed me a manila envelope and paid a crooked lawyer to lock me in a room facing a brick wall." "It was a mistake, Mom," Clara wailed, dropping all her previous arrogance. "Arthur Sterling lied to us. He told us it was standard procedure. We were just trying to protect you." "Protect me?" I scoffed softly. "You were already picking out tiles for my flower garden. You locked my jewelry in your safe. And you used my money to fund Greg's failed business. We'll give it all back." Greg pleaded. "We'll sign whatever you want. Just tell the court to unfreeze our accounts. We have nowhere to sleep tonight." I looked at the framed family photo on the wall, taken 20 years ago when Clara was just a girl. I felt no anger, no regret, only a profound, cold clarity. "You wanted me to live at Suncrest Manor, Clara," I said calmly. "You told me they had a bed opening up at 8 in the morning. Well, I checked their website 10 minutes ago. They have 2 emergency cots available in the basement ward for the destitute." So, please," Clara gasped. "Pack light, Clara," I whispered. "You won't be needing much." I tapped the button, ending the call. I handed the receiver back to Julian. "File Phase 3, Julian. Let's take back Greg's consulting firm." By Monday morning, Greg's consulting firm, which was supposed to be his ticket into elite business circles, was in complete chaos. Greg had borrowed $200,000 to lease a glass-walled office downtown, bought mahogany desks, and hired 5 junior analysts. He had told everyone he was an independent investor, backed by family generational wealth. He didn't realize that Julian Mercer and I were stepping into the building at 9 o'clock sharp, accompanied by a court-appointed receiver. The glass doors of the suite were unlocked. Greg was sitting at his grand desk, wearing the same wrinkled shirt from 2 days ago, dark circles under his hollow eyes, eating a cold gas station sandwich. When he saw me walk in, flanked by Julian and 2 forensic accountants, the sandwich fell from his trembling fingers onto his desk. "Evelyn," Greg gasped, scrambling to his feet. What? What are you doing here? Julian didn't wait for an invitation. He set a thick, blue-stamped binder directly on Greg's desk. Under County Probate Order 309, Julian declared, his voice cutting through the silent office. All business entities funded, partially or wholly, using commingled funds stolen from the Vance Family Irrevocable Trust, are subject to immediate legal seizure. Greg's mouth opened, but no sound came out. He looked frantically at his two junior employees, who were staring at him from across the room. You can't seize my company. Greg stammered, his voice rising in panic. I registered this LLC under my own name. And you deposited a $10,000 check drawn directly from Evelyn's trust account into this business checking account on the 15th. Julian replied, pulling a laminated bank audit sheet from the binder. That single fraudulent transaction legally tainted your entire corporate entity. Julian turned toward the 5 junior analysts standing near the coffee station. Ladies and gentlemen, Julian announced clearly, Greg Miller is officially removed as managing director of this firm. Effective immediately. Evelyn Vance is the primary receiver. Your salaries for this month will be paid directly out of the recovered trust assets. You may resume your work under new management, or take your belongings and leave. The 5 employees didn't hesitate for a single second. They knew Greg's checks were going to bounce anyway. They nodded politely to me, gathered their laptops, and walked right past Greg, leaving him completely alone. Evelyn, please. Greg dropped to his knees right beside his mahogany desk, sobbing hysterically. I have nothing left. Clara and I are sleeping in our car. We haven't eaten a real meal in 2 days. I walked slowly over to his desk, picked up a framed photo of Claire and Greg taken on a yacht, and looked at it. You used my life savings to buy this desk, Greg, I said softly, my voice completely calm. You drank my vintage wine, and you helped my daughter lock me in a room with a window facing a brick wall. I was just following Clara's lead. Greg cried out, trying to shift the blame. She told me you were getting senile. She told me you wanted us to take over. I set the photo frame face down on the desk. You should go find Clara, I said quietly, because the police are currently at her hotel, serving an arrest warrant for felony grand larceny. Greg froze, his eyes widening in absolute horror. An arrest warrant, he whispered. $10,000 stolen from an irrevocable trust isn't just a civil dispute, Greg, Julian added, pulling a set of court documents. It's elder financial fraud, a Class B felony in this state, and unless you want your name on that warrant too, I suggest you clear out your desk in the next 5 minutes. Greg didn't say another word. He grabbed his coat, stuffed a few pens into his pocket, and practically ran out of the glass doors, leaving behind his fake empire and the ruins of his greed. I sat down in the leather chair behind the desk, looking out at the city skyline. Call the real estate agent, Julian, I said calmly. Let's put this office lease up for sale and donate the proceeds to an elder abuse shelter. Julian smiled, opening his tablet. With pleasure, Evelyn. What's phase 4? Phase 4, I said, taking a deep breath, is Clara's day in court. By 4 o'clock that afternoon, the police had located Clara at a cheap motel on the outskirts of the county. She was arrested in the parking lot, right next to her sedan, which was crammed full of garbage bags filled with her designer clothes. The news cameras were already waiting when the police cruiser pulled up to the county sheriff's station. Local reporters broadcasted live as Clara was led inside. Her hair messy, mascara running down her cheeks, and handcuffs glinting around her wrists. The headlines read, "Local socialite arrested for grand larceny and elder abuse." I sat in Julian Mercer's conference room, watching the news broadcast on a flat-screen television. Julian walked in, holding a folder of criminal docket filings. Clara's public defender requested an emergency bail hearing, but because she attempted to flee the jurisdiction, the judge set bail at $250,000, cash only, which she doesn't have. I said calmly, "Which she doesn't have." Julian agreed. Her credit cards are frozen, her bank accounts are seized, and Greg has completely turned on her. Greg turned on her? I looked up. He signed a sworn affidavit an hour ago, Julian explained, testifying that Clara forged your name on the emergency guardianship petition, and that she was the sole mastermind behind transferring the $10,000. He's cutting a deal with prosecutors to save himself. Greed had destroyed their marriage, just as easily as it had destroyed their lives. An hour later, Julian and I walked into the visitor center of the county jail. Clara was brought out into the small room, wearing an oversized orange jumpsuit. Her face was pale, her eyes bloodshot, and she looked 10 years older than she had 6 days ago. She sat down behind the plexiglass partition, picking up the receiver with trembling hands. "Mom!" Clara sobbed, her voice cracking through the small speaker. "Please, you have to tell them to let me go. I can't stay in here. It's cold, and the people here are terrifying." I picked up my phone, looking at her through the glass. "You sent 2 strangers to my house to pack my life into a suitcase, Clara," I said, my voice steady and unyielding. "You sent me to a facility where the windows had bars, and you tried to take the home your father built with his own hands." "I was stupid, Mom," Clara cried out, pressing her palm against the glass. "Greg convinced me we needed the money. He said you were getting old anyway. I was desperate." "You were greedy, Clara," I corrected her. "There is a difference." "Please, Mom," she begged. "Drop the criminal charges. I'll sign a legal waiver. I'll forfeit all claims to the house. Just don't send me to prison." Julian leaned toward the microphone, his sharp voice cutting through her panic. "You don't have any claims to forfeit, Clara," Julian said. "The Vance family irrevocable trust already severed your inheritance rights. Effective this morning, Evelyn officially executed an amendment removing you entirely as a beneficiary." Clara froze, staring at me in complete shock. You disowned me? You disowned yourself the moment you put a price tag on your own mother." I replied softly. I slowly set the phone receiver down on the cradle, stand up, and button my coat. "Wait, Mom, don't leave me," Clara screamed, slamming her hand against the glass as the guard stepped forward to lead her back to her cell. "Mom!" I turned my back on her and walked out into the afternoon sun. 6 months after her arrest at the motel, Clara stood in the county criminal court, facing the consequences of her own actions. The courtroom was filled with local reporters, former neighbors, and curious onlookers who had followed the high-profile elder abuse case. Clara sat at the defense table, wearing a dark, conservative suit that looked completely empty on her. She had lost weight. Her hair was pulled back tightly, and her arrogant smile was gone, replaced by a permanent look of hollow terror. Beside her was a court-appointed public defender, frantically reviewing a thin stack of legal motions. Across the aisle, Julian Mercer and I sat quietly beside the district attorney. The judge hit his gavel twice, the loud cracks echoing through the silent courtroom. Court is now in session. The People versus Clara Vance Miller. The prosecution didn't need to exaggerate or deliver flashy speeches. The paper trail spoke for itself. First took the stand the forensic accountant, who presented bank statements showing the exact moment Clara authorized the $10,000 wire transfer from my trust. Next took the stand Greg, her own husband, wearing a cheap suit and looking down at the floor. Greg testified under oath that Clara had forged my signature on the emergency guardianship papers, and that she was the primary architect behind the entire scheme. In exchange for his testimony, Greg accepted a plea deal for 3 years of strict probation, avoiding state prison. Greed had destroyed their marriage, and now Greg was the nail in her legal coffin. Finally, Arthur Sterling, Clara's former eldercare lawyer, was brought in from federal custody handcuffed and wearing an orange jumpsuit, testifying that Clara had promised him a 15% cut of my estate once the house was sold. The public defender attempted a weak defense, claiming Clara was under immense financial pressure and simply made a lapse in judgment. When the jury returned after less than an hour of deliberation, the foreperson stood up. On the count of felony grand larceny, guilty. On the count of elder financial exploitation, guilty. On the count of conspiracy and deed fraud, guilty. Clara slumped in her chair, burying her face in her trembling hands, sobbing uncontrollably. The judge looked down at her over his glasses, his voice stern and unforgiving. "Mrs. Miller," the judge said, "you targeted your own mother, a woman who gave you everything, and threw her into a neglected care facility for your own material greed. The law exists to protect the vulnerable from predators, especially when those predators share their own blood." The judge slammed his gavel down. "I sentence you to 7 years in state prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release and full restitution to the Vance Family Irrevocable Trust." The bailiff stepped forward, cuffing Clara's hands behind her back. As she was let out through the side door, she turned her head once, crying out, "Mom, please, forgive me." I looked at her calmly, standing tall beside Julian. I didn't cheer. I didn't frown. I simply adjusted my coat and said nothing. The debt was paid. Justice was served. 1 month after Clara was escorted away to serve her 7-year prison sentence, the county probate court officially cleared all remaining liens and illegal claims against my estate. The house, the 70 acres of commercial land, and every single cent taken from my accounts were fully restored to the Vance Family Irrevocable Trust. It was a crisp autumn morning when I walked back onto my front patio, holding a hot mug of coffee. The garden that Clara had threatened to tear down was blooming with golden chrysanthemums. The heavy iron gates were locked tight, secured by a modern digital security system that Julian Mercer had helped me install. Julian walked up the porch steps, carrying a leather binder containing the final court settlement papers. "Every detail is finalized, Evelyn," Julian said, handing me the pen. "Restitution payments from Greg's probation order have already begun, and Arthur Sterling's remaining assets were liquidated to cover your legal fees." I signed my name at the bottom of the last page, feeling a deep, overwhelming weight lift off my shoulders. "What will you do now, Evelyn?" Julian asked softly, looking out over the quiet lawn. You have full control of the estate again. I took a slow sip of my coffee, looking toward the far corner of the property, where a grand stone-faced Victorian home sat behind a grove of maple trees. It was the original manor house on the 70-acre plot, the exact property that Clara had spent 5 years obsessing over, the house she called her dream estate. She had drawn up floor plans, picked out Italian marble countertops, and boasted to her friends that it would be hers the moment I passed away. "I'm going to finish the renovations on the manor house, Julian," I said calmly. Julian blinked, slightly surprised. "You're moving into the manor?" "No." I smiled, setting my mug down on the patio table. "I'm turning it into the headquarters for the Evelyn Vance Foundation for Elder Protection." Julian's eyes lit up with a quiet, brilliant smile. "A nonprofit," Julian realized, "funded entirely by the commercial land lease revenue." "Precisely," I replied. "We are going to hire full-time forensic accountants and estate lawyers. Their only job will be to protect elderly citizens in this county from ungrateful children, predatory attorneys, and fraudulent guardianships." I looked out at the stone manor, glowing in the morning sunlight. Clara had spent her entire life scheming to take that house from me. She had compromised her morality, ruined her marriage, and traded her freedom for a piece of real estate. And now, that very same dream estate would spend the next 50 years protecting the exact people she tried to destroy. Julian chuckled softly, shaking his head in admiration. "That, Evelyn, is the most elegant sentence you could have ever passed." I took a deep breath of the crisp autumn air. The storm had passed, the betrayal was answered, and my home was finally at peace. 1 year after Clara was taken away to begin her prison sentence, the grand opening of the Evelyn Vance Foundation for Elder Protection took place on a bright golden afternoon. The Victorian manor house, which Clara had once dreamed of turning into her private luxury estate, was completely transformed, where she had planned to install marble countertops and a private wine cellar. There were now modern legal offices, research desks, and a free hotline center dedicated to helping elderly victims of financial fraud. Over 200 guests attended the ribbon-cutting ceremony, including county judges, legal advocate groups, and reporters from across the state. I stood on the front steps of the manor, wearing a simple, elegant dark green suit, with Julian Mercer standing proudly beside me. As the applause died down, a local journalist raised her microphone. "Mrs. Vance," the reporter asked, "your foundation has already helped freeze 3 fraudulent guardianships in this county alone. Do you ever think about your daughter, Clara, sitting in prison, knowing what this property has become?" I looked at the grand brass plaque mounted beside the front doors, engraved with the foundation's name. "Clara made her choices," I replied, my voice steady, calm, and clear. "She saw this land as something to be stolen. I saw it as a responsibility. Today, this house serves a purpose far greater than her greed could have ever imagined." That evening, after the last guest had left and the grounds fell quiet, Julian handed me a small manila folder. "A report from the State Correctional Facility, Evelyn," Julian said quietly. "Clara's public defender submitted another petition for early parole last week." I took a slow sip of my tea, looking at the document. "And the judge's ruling?" "Denied," Julian replied. "The judge cited her total lack of remorse during trial. She will serve the full 7 years. She is currently working in the prison laundry room, earning 30 cents an hour." I set the file down on my desk, feeling no malice, no triumph, only a quiet, unbroken peace. She had traded her mother, her family, and her future for a piece of property, and in the end, she gained nothing but an orange jumpsuit and 7 years of hard regret. I walked out onto the balcony, looking up at the clear starlit sky. The story was over. The debt was paid in full, and my life was finally mine again. If you enjoyed this ultimate family revenge story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more incredible Reddit stories. Now I want to hear from you. What would you have done if your own child tried to lock you away for your inheritance? Would you have gone as far as Evelyn did? Or handled it differently? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and until next time, remember, justice always finds its way home.